I'm here today with 14 books that I plan on reading in 2014. I figured that was a pretty good video to follow up my top 13 books of 2013. So the first book I have is actually on my Nook, and that is Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I started reading this last year, and I just got bored reading. I was about 100 pages into it, and I'm like, I don't want to read anything for like the rest of the year. And so I didn't. So 2, 3, and 4 are a trilogy. I don't know if it's like a trilogy or a companion trilogy, but it is Agents of Artifice by Arnie Marmel. This is the first Planeswalker novel from the Magic the Gathering series. Then there's The Purifying Fire by Laura Resnick, which is the second one, and The Test of Metal by Matthew Stover, which is the third one. And like I said, I don't know if these are an actual trilogy or if they're just companion novels, because the way Magic the Gathering novels work, you really don't know until you read the book, because you could have a trilogy that is literally 3 separate stories, and then you can have 2 separate trilogies that are all the same story. So I won't really know until I read them, but I am looking forward to reading them this year. And these 3 have such pretty spines. They're so colorful, and especially The Purifying Fire, like, they're so well blended. Then for the 5th book that I plan on reading, and obviously not in this particular order, but that is A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. I'm about 250 pages into this, and I mean that leaves me with like another 800 pages to get through, so it's still like reading an entire novel. This was another one of the other books that I hadn't finished at the end of last year, and I really wanted to read it because it was so good. It's just, I just don't have time to read it right now, so I plan on finishing that this year. Then we get on to some classics. Love's Labour's Lost by Shakespeare. I have read, at this point in my life, all of Shakespeare's most famous works and a lot of his fairly popular works. So now I'm getting to the point where when if I pick up a Shakespeare play, I don't actually know what it's about anymore because they're not very common. So it's kind of exciting to not know the plot of a Shakespeare play. And so that is why I'm going to be reading Love's Labour's Lost this year. Then I have Mythology by Edith Hamilton. And then I have another Magic the Gathering novel, and that is The Scars of Mirrodin by Robert B. Wintermute. I was really excited to read this book, and then I realized it was by the same author who wrote Zendikar, which was one of my least favorite Magic the Gathering books. Another book that I have on my Nook, and that is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I had actually planned on reading that book as well last year, but then I got really busy and just never got around to it. And I mean, I've watched The Princess Bride a lot, and I feel like I should read the book. So there's that one. The book I have is The Pirate Queen by Alan Gold. I bought this when I was in like middle school, I think, because the cover looked awesome. Then we move on to the final Magic the Gathering book I plan to read this year, and that is Scourge by J. Robert King. Next book I have is on my Nook as well, the final Nook book I have, and that is Unenchanted by Chandra Han. This ended up on my TBR twice last year, and I didn't read it, so I'm going to read it this year. Then we get on to another classic, and that is The Winter's Tale by Shakespeare. I mean, it's a Shakespeare play. Shakespeare plays are short. Like, I audiobook these on, honestly, I audiobook Shakespeare plays and just read along. And that takes about an hour or so a scene, so it's about 5 hours. But, again, I picked The Winter's Tale because lately I've been seeing a lot of stuff that's like, oh, that's a reference to The Winter's Tale. Oh, that's a reference to The Winter's Tale. And I'm like, I haven't read The Winter's Tale. I don't know what The Winter's Tale is about. Quit referencing stuff I don't know. So I've decided that I will remedy that this year and read The Winter's Tale as well as Love's Labour's Lost. Which brings us now to the final book that I have dedicated myself to reading in 2014. And that is The Wishlist by Eoin Colfer. Artemis Fowl is one of my favorite series ever, and I can't say that Eoin Colfer is my favorite author though, because I've only ever read the Artemis Fowl series by him, and I picked this up a while ago to read it so I would have something else to read, but then I'm like, I could read The Wishlist. or I could reread Artemis Fowl, and then I always chose rereading Artemis Fowl. So now that I have read the entire Artemis Fowl series, which I finished last year, around this time actually, I figured I would read The Wishlist and see if Eoin Colfer can work his way into my favorite authors, as well as my favorite series, as the author of one of my favorite series. So there you have it. Those are 14 books, not all of the books that I plan to read, but the 14 that I've decided to make sure I read this year. And until next time, TTYL.